Good afternoon. I'm Emily Austin, General Manager of CooperSurgical Fertility in the UK, Ireland and Germany. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our webinar this lunchtime on the topic of how to go live with Embryo Options. Embryo Options is an automated cryobilling service that we offer to clinics. We've now launched this in the UK and Ireland. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about what Embryo Options is and the benefits that it has for clinics in terms of reducing the admin burden around cryobilling and saving time and providing a user-friendly experience for patients. But we're also going to be discussing today how we actually get a clinic up and running. Expertly talking us through this, we have two of our colleagues from the very efficient and very helpful Embryo Options team. Firstly, we will hear from John Whitney. John is Senior Product Director for Embryo Options at CooperSurgical. John has a unique perspective, having been a fertility clinic director who implemented Embryo Options as a customer. John was so impressed with Embryo Options that he decided to work with the system full-time and joined us here at CooperSurgical. John has gained a wealth of knowledge about Embryo Options with first-hand experience of just how effective the software solution is and how the platform will actually look in the UK and Irish fertility market. He is well versed in all the applicable regulations in UK and Ireland, such as consenting, data and banking security, etc., and can relate to the pain points of cryobilling and consenting, not just from a clinic and network leader perspective, but the lab will also be able to relate to his experience as an embryologist. We're also very pleased to have Laura Muri with us today. As a Director of Customer Success, Laura leads the Embryo Options Customer Success team and partners closely with the product team to ensure we are guiding customers through a successful implementation and delivering impactful outcomes for our customers. With a decade of experience in customer success and software as a service implementations, Laura ensures a seamless transition for customers, enabling them to quickly realise their software investments' full potential. As a former patient herself, Laura is passionate about supporting our customers to ensure they are providing the best patient experience possible. So our panel today is presenting a full picture here in terms of experience with Embryo Options from running a clinic, working in a lab, as a patient, as product director and customer services, so they're very well placed to answer all of your questions. So don't be shy with the questions. We're here to provide you with the information and the knowledge that you need. So please submit questions you think of as we go along into the Q&A box, and we'll answer as many as time allows after the presentations. John, I'll now hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. We are going to separate this webinar into two sections. The first section is going to be where I give a download of exactly what Embryo Options is, go a little bit deeper into exactly how we support your clinic and how we can support your cryobilling, patient engagement, your HFEA compliance, and all the aspects of how we relieve a lot of the workload that you experience in your lab. And Laura is going to come on after that and go through exactly what it takes to get us onboarded, what the expectations are out of you as a clinic, what the expectations are from us, and exactly what that time frame looks like to get Embryo Options put into your laboratory. For anybody that needs a good clarity of what Embryo Options is, it is a digital cryobilling platform supporting patient engagement through an easy-to-use and navigate online portal to keep patients informed and educated on their end-of-storage options. What that means is that it is a digital solution for you to put into your laboratory, in which allows this automated experience for both you and your patients to facilitate what they need with ongoing storage communication, HFEA compliance, reconsenting needs, billing needs, end of storage consenting. All of those items are done within our environment. With Embryo Options, you can experience labor reduction in that the system does it automatically by working with your EMR system. You can improve your patient experience and then overall increase your collection rates as well, both collection rates of end of storage consents, collection rates of HFEA reconsents, and as well as collection rates in general for making sure that every patient is getting billed properly. We have 4 pillars that we work off of in assisting your clinics. We have a financial reporting and analytics. We have automated billing. We do integrated cryo management and digital patient engagement. And I'm going to dive into each one of those and how we support you individually with these 4 pillars. They are here to represent the work that we're taking off of you and bringing onto us, as well as showing you pathways to that improved patient experience, as well as an improved experience for you inside the laboratory. So let's go ahead and let's dive in. Automated billing. What does that mean? It means that Embryo Options provides an automated cryo billing platform, helping to improve cash collections and your patient experience. Well, what exactly does that mean? It means that your inventory is digitally given into the Embryo Options software, and through that software, we can then provide you with the correct patient engagement needs from that inventory. If that engagement is to bill, then we can go ahead and do the billing. We can do improved billing attempts by communicating seamlessly with your patients at multiple time points without you doing any labor to be able to get that to happen. We can then engage our patients for reconsenting automatically within the system because their inventory is viewed within our system. If you need to provide patients with a portal to learn about their end of storage options, you can broadcast that in the portal and they can go ahead and authenticate signatures using our platform to provide you your end of storage consents. All of those, Laura will talk through exactly how we can make that unique and available for you inside of your laboratory to meet the way that you want it to happen. It is very customizable so that you can ensure that the patient experience is the way that you see it, not just the way that we can provide it for you. What we've seen in our automated billing is that we've increased 12% improvements in patients paying. We've seen increase in charges because clinics are growing with us. We've seen that we've gotten an uptick of about 36% more cash collected, and we are reducing AR. AR is accounts receivable, or the patients that are not paying. That also is a highlight to say patients that are ending their storage appropriately and getting through and out of your tanks so that you can go ahead and alleviate those tanks that are growing every single year, as I remember quite heavily how that was happening. So that reduction in AR is actually a really good call out to know that in your laboratory, your patients are being engaged more promptly and that they're going through the system better for you. So how does it work? Well, it's a software service that enables cryopreservation billing through our platform. It is an online portal that both you and your patients have experience to get. Sorry, looking at my screen in just a moment. The way that it works for you is that you click onto our dashboard, you log in, you have the ability to identify new storage accounts. You can activate storage accounts, review their HFEA compliance to ensure that it is done. You can close accounts, you can send end of storage consents, you can review account activity, and you can go ahead and view your financial reports. We do this through a complete integrated cryo management. That is our way of working with your EMR system in order to view your patients and put them into the program so that we can properly engage them. The other thing that we provide you is, besides this 24/7 online portal access, is we also provide you with a customer service team that when patients need to answer questions, have help with their login, fill out forms, issues with any of the forms that they need to fill out, ways to go ahead and make payments, password updates, they can call us directly instead of them calling you to be able to utilize our platform. We do address the need to digitize the IVF journey with the patients. And through that integrated cryo management with your EMR system, we can really amplify and provide you a new digital way to work with your patients, as well as the support to be able to work with your patients from a customer service need. What it looks like is you get these 2 portals. The admin portal to the left is the portal that you use on your clinic side to be able to integrate work within it, do whatever that you need to do within the admin portal. And on the other side is the patient portal that a patient can go ahead and log in. Now, the very first thing that you're going to think is another patient portal. Well, for a bulk of patients, they get an email that gets sent to them saying that they have a bill due. They can click one button on there, go directly to pay that bill. provide their payment details, and then they'll never have to log in again. They don't need to log in, create accounts, remember passwords. They can easily just pay their bill as needed. And then when it's ready for end of storage or HFEA reconsenting, and they want to gain more access, they can then go through and log in and get the full experience. But it is not required just for the simple act of paying their bill and maintaining compliance. What it looks like when you work with Embryo Options or when you log into your platform, we give you a dashboard. So here is an example of our dashboard. You can see that to the left of all of this, there will be a menu bar to be able to go and navigate within the software, to be able to use what you need to use, ask the questions of the software. Where are my patients? What are they doing? Who's delinquent? Who is in the reconsenting? All of those are going to be on your menu bar to the left. In the middle is going to be a quick reference. You're going to see your embryo cryo members, your egg cryo members, anybody that's in the system, who's registered, where they're at. And then below that, you're going to see all of your billing. Those that have upcoming payments, those that need to be activated, those that are activated that need to be closed. Any of those items are easily done within your member dashboard. All of this is to create this digital patient engagement. And it's through that dashboard that we provide access to comprehensive data about your accounts, your reconsenting, and your end of storage. It's a complete digital document collection and automated patient engagement tool. With that, we've had, I believe this number is actually low, with 373,000 patients. We're probably now over 400,000 patients that are currently enrolled in the portal. With that digital patient engagement, we give you flexibility to be able to configure whatever you need to configure with your payment plans. If you have patients that are on free, if they're on discounted plans, if you want them to start billing in a year, if you want to give them 2 years and start billing, all of those are done within the payment plan configuration. And during your onboarding, you'll be able to speak with Laura and the customer success team to make sure that we meet all of your individual needs with that. So what does the digital experience look like to the patient from your end? Here's what a patient profile is that it looks like. You get the demographics or the profile. You get to see their end of storage. You get to see their freeze dates, their payment methods, their billing, and then their activity. And with the HFEA feature that is coming out relatively soon, we will see an HFEA compliance tab as well. Each one of those tabs you can click through to be able to navigate and see exactly what you need to do. I will highlight that the activity tab is the #1 tab that most of our clinics will go ahead to use because it's a chronological view of everything that is ever done with them within Embryo Options. Every email that is sent, every mailing that is sent, documentation, notes, communication. If they call our customer service team and they talk with someone over the phone, those notes are documented in there. They're date stamped. Email open rates are in there. If their address is valid, if their phone number is valid, if their email address is valid, if it's invalid, you'll be able to see that. Those are all of the activities to truly get to see what is happening with every account, and it's done automatically. You don't have to do anything, and it's just there for you to go ahead to view. We provide DocuSign automation with virtual ID. So you can see here as an example of what the DocuSign automation can do for you and how we can send out your center forms. The HFEA reconsents go out in a similar fashion. The statutory notices do not go out in DocuSign. Those go out as a PDF. All of that is automated and sent out to the patient through this digital environment. And here's a view of that activity tab as I was showing. You can see that we have the member activity. We can see if their phone number is valid, their email, what their open rate is, if they've ever logged in. This obviously was a test account that I'm showing you from, but you can see if the patients are actually being properly engaged. And then we have our financial reporting and analytics. This is what is key because as a core product for billing, your financial team is going to ask, well, what do we get now? How does this work for us? What do we do with the billing? Many financial many of the people that work in finance feel very strongly about what they're doing and how they're doing it, and they're already very busy, so they don't want to be burdened with it. Well, the good news is that we do everything for you, and you get a deposit of cash once a month, and the reporting for that is done directly in Embryo Options. So you can log in, pull that report. If you want to pull details out of that report, you can click and you can get it downloaded to Excel. Your finance team can work directly with all of that because it is a full detailed billing report. But from a summary level and from what they need to do on a monthly basis, it is very easy for them to come in and do that work. We do support full transparency of every billing so that every patient is seen. Nothing is hidden from your view. You can be able to pull the standard detail report for the billing. And what does that look like? Well, here it is right here. You can see, again, that within our reporting, you can see all of the different type of reports that you can pull, the way that they're pulled, if they're based on the transaction, if they're based on the charges. You then can come in here and you can say, what are the date ranges that you want to look at? If you want to look at individual locations, if you want to look at individual providers, you then get your summary of charges that are done, any discounts, payments that are in there, anything that's left outstanding, and then you get a reconciliation. And that reconciliation is what your financial team will use every single month to be able to reconcile to the deposit. Then that little export to Excel button, you can then pull this report. It doesn't look anything like what you're seeing on the screen because it will then itemize every single action that happened within that date range and give it to you as a date range of action so that you can see exactly what patient was billed, what happened, did they pay, and then be able to waterfall that however that you need. We've been around since 2015. We are a proven and exceptionally robust solution for your IVF clinic. We have been doing cryo billing and end of storage management from the very beginning. We have, again, almost over 400,000 patients that are enrolled. We have over probably closer to 2,000 admin users today. We've done over 200 million in revenue that's been collected for our centers. I would like to say that we are experts, but we are experts because we have been with so many clinics. We are currently in Australia, Canada, the US, and now we're coming to the UK and Ireland. And we're using everything that we're learning from all of different clinics and different experiences that we have to bring that level of knowledge and what that best practice is to you and to give you, through our customer success and through our platform, the best ways to engage with your patients. We are continuously improving our platform. Every 2 weeks, we run what they're called sprints, which are software updates. We are bringing in new features. We just launched features for auto close. We just ran a new feature for SMS verification. All of these things come to you through your customer success partner at Embryo Options to know that we are constantly updating, constantly meeting what our clinics are needing and what our patients are needing to make sure that we provide the best in class service for them. So it's not, okay, you get it today and nothing changes. It is constantly changing and updating. And with those changes and updates, you are allowed to adopt them, or you're allowed to say, nope, we're not interested in that feature to move forward. The best example of one of those features that we're currently working on is this HFEA feature. Today, I do want to acknowledge that the HFEA changes to the regulations do not affect our current functionality. So you could launch Embryo Options and do a completely separate HFEA reconsenting need without it. Nothing within our system is against the HFEA change in the requirements. So you don't need it, but we are very aware that it would be beneficial and really help to be able to meet those reconsenting timelines that are in there. So we are developing and we're in the final stages to go and start looking at deploying the HFEA feature, which allows the clinics to control and remain in control of their reconsenting needs, dictate the timing, dictate when their end of storage consent is, through the platform, and then the platform automates and maintains compliance by sending out the notices within the timeline that is needed by the HFEA, given how the clinic has set it up. It sounds a bit complex, but it's truly very simple. Every account will come in. We'll have parameters for end of consent. We'll have parameters for if there is any donor material that is used, and it will then display to you what dates from those dates are going to be the reconsenting portion for the HFEA. When is their renewal period, what notices will be sent out, and when they will be sent out. That then happens automatically in the background, and those consents go out. They get logged in that activity tab, and you can actually see and ensure that every single document that was intended and required to be sent to a patient gets sent to the patient. This is one of those features, again, that we are constantly updating and bringing to you, and you can add it in, or you can say, you know what, we're happy with the billing component and the patient engagement and end of storage as is. We can handle the HFEA. Anything is possible with us. I'm going to take a pause, clear my throat, and let you guys know that the most important thing that we are here to talk about today is how do you actually get Embryo Options into your clinic? So let's say that you're sold and it's all great. What does it actually look and feel like? And with most IT, many people think, oh, it's going to be a lot more work for us. And I think that what we're here to do is to say, we are doing something to help your clinic in the future, help your patients in the future. The time that you spend today will be saved abundantly in the upcoming months and years. And this is a program that really cements the best in practice for your patients and for your clinic immediately. And it's truly not that much work to get us launched. So with that, I'm going to send it over to Laura and let her come in and go ahead and talk through exactly what it's like to onboard with us.
Thanks for teeing that up, John. I appreciate that. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about and helping you guys envision what the process would look like after you decide to move forward with Embryo Options, and how that partnership would start working with the Embryo Options team in your clinic. So I'm going to walk through a few things. First being a little highlight on the team that you'd be working with. So we'll do some team introductions. I want to talk a little bit about the overview of EO, which John already did a great job of. I'm just going to show a few visuals to kind of highlight some of the volume and scale that we've seen recently, give you an idea of what it'll look like, how we're going to work together, what our roles and responsibilities are, what it takes to get started, and then finally give you an indication of what the timeline would look like. So that said, we can go ahead and jump into the team. I'm not necessarily going to introduce every single person on this slide, but we would go through this during a meeting or one of our first meetings after we decided to partner together. But really the point here is that the team partners with clinics and internal project stakeholders to ensure a high standard of customer experience and really ensure that we're streamlining that approach to launch Embryo Options. One group that I do want to call out here at the bottom of this slide, and John alluded to it briefly during his slides, but we do have a customer support team. And while they're not involved necessarily in the implementation phase, they are very much involved in the post-launch phase because they are handling a lot of your patient inquiries. So that is one of the benefits our clinics have found with partnering with us is we help offload a lot of those patient calls into their billing and lab teams with questions around, what they're paying their bill for, how to handle different payment methods. So our team is taking on a brunt of those phone calls. Additionally, while you see some faces here that will help in the implementation phase, we are also here to support you post-implementation. So our team is really making sure that we're continuing to guide you, talk to you about some of the new features and functionality that John had mentioned. So it's not that we're just together for the short implementation period. It's an ongoing relationship that we like to create with our customers. So moving on from our team and a little bit more about EO and how we're going to work together. The next slide just showcases, again, John gave, I think, a great overview on our platform, so I don't need to spend too much time talking about that. But I do want to call attention to some of the numbers on these slides so you can get a sense of the volume and growth that our platform has been successfully supporting clinics, right? So first metric here is about 586,000 payments were processed in our system last year. It's a combination of monthly and yearly payments. So there's flexibility, right, on how you want to build and communicate with your payments around cryo storage billing. That was a 50% increase year over year. So we're continuously seeing more patients being funneled into our system, which equates to more payments that we're helping process. We also collected a total of 96 million in cryo billing revenue in 2022. We would expect, that's a large figure, right? That's across all of our clinics. So while we're processing a lot of payments, we're collecting a lot of funds. But to kind of put it into perspective for you, we typically expect that we're collecting about 80% or higher on all of your patient accounts after 12 to 24 months of being live with EO. We're sending a lot of automated communication to patients. It's a combination of letters and emails that are going out to patients. Last year, we delivered around 3 million pieces of those automated communications, which is aiding to that high patient engagement and higher collection rates. So again, just kind of wanted to give you an idea of the volume that our platform is handling and how we continue to scale with the additional clinics that we're bringing onto our environment. All right, so as far as objectives, we typically find that clinics have one of these main objectives, or maybe all three. And it's important for our team to understand what is most important for our customers so we can tailor the key metrics that we're looking at and continue to provide strategic recommendations based on what's most important to them. So that said, we'll spend some time reviewing and aligning on these objectives in the onboarding process. The first one is operational efficiency. So how can we help improve that patient experience? How are we reducing time that your team is spending on billing and disposition efforts? So the billing team, your finance team, and then the disposition efforts based on what's going on in the lab and how they're reviewing those documents. Secondly, revenue generation. How are we going to increase our cryo storage revenue, and how are we increasing those overall collection rates? And then finally, space, which is something we're hearing more and more about, but how do we help increase the space that they have in the lab? So, how are we increasing the consent forms and streamlining the process for patients to complete those within our environment, which John had a slide about previously. And then finally, our, abandonment policies. So, there's capabilities within our platform. And again, to John's point about, continuous evolvement and new features and functionalities that we're building in our platform, that is a new feature that we help clinics track and run reporting based on their specific abandonment policy to see what patients might, apply to that. So that's another piece or a feature that will help increase space for labs within the clinic. So again, these are just things we want to talk through all of these objectives, and maybe there's something different, but these are the three common ones that we're hearing about to understand what's most important to your clinic and your staff and your patients, to understand how we can help really move the needle for you guys. All right, so as far as our partnership approach, I'm going to go through these just to make sure everyone really understands. But before I dig into all of the bubbles here, the bullets, you'll see that there's more bullets around clinic roles. Does that mean we have to do a lot? And is this going to be very difficult? No. You'll see as I read through these, really the clinic's roles are primarily around just participation and onboarding calls that we'll coordinate and providing some assets to us. So as far as our team, we'll designate a primary point of contact for the clinic. So we have a big team, right? I showed a few team members. There's a couple that will be on calls that we'll schedule with you guys, but they're working with a wide team behind the scenes as well. But we'll have a primary point of contact so you know who to go to for any questions throughout that onboarding process. We will provide launch guidance throughout the timeline, which I'll get into shortly. But we're going to coordinate discovery meetings and host weekly check-ins or bi-weekly check-ins until we launch. And that's something that our team coordinates and drives. Post-launch, we'll provide ongoing strategic program support, as well as technical platform and integration support. And that integration support happens during the implementation process. As far as clinic roles, we will ask that additionally, like us, to designate a primary billing and technical point of contact for us, so we kind of know who to go to for what types of questions. We will need the data, right? The patient data for ingestion. So a lot of times that looks like, it could be a combination of things, the clinic providing us raw data files or an introduction to their EMR where we're going to get that data from. We'll also need the clinic to provide required assets and an intake form prior to launch. I'll get into a little bit more details on requirements, specifics around requirements that we'll ask of you in a few slides. We'll ask you to assist in QA prior to go live, participate in all of these onboarding calls, and then finally identify what we consider, platform admins that will be responsible for execution within the Embryo Options platform. So a lot of our system is automated once we get up and running, but there's a few kind of key use cases that we want to make sure that your team is familiar on how to execute, and we spend time training those admins prior to go live. All right, so steps to onboard. What does it take to get implemented? First, we'll have a kickoff call with the clinic to set some expectations, make sure we're all clear on what this process is going to look like. From there, we're going to outline all of the requirements, what we need to stand up your portal within Embryo Options. Once we have all of those assets, we will start setting the portal up. After that setup is complete, we'll go through QA. We'll train all of the admins, and then we'll launch. Throughout that process, we coordinate weekly meetings just to make sure that we keep the ball rolling and we keep momentum going to stick to a pretty, in some cases, aggressive timeline. Again, don't want to overwhelm you, but we want to try to implement the solution as quick as possible so you guys can start to see value as quick as possible. So we'll keep things coordinated. We'll keep communication lines open throughout this weekly meeting during the onboarding process. All right, so next I do want to dig into or provide a little bit more clarity around what are the requirements, what actually do you need to configure the portal for our clinic. First is an introduction to your EMR. That's how we're going to get the data, and that's probably the biggest asset that we need. If you do not have an EMR and you're working on spreadsheets, or you have a different form of how you're organizing all of that patient data, that wouldn't require an introduction to the EMR, but most clinics that we partner with are also working with an EMR system, and that's where they're logging all of their patient demographics and inventory detail. We work with a lot of EMRs. We have a lot of great relationships already established. And we have a lot of flexibility. In my experience, if we are introduced to a new EMR, it's not too difficult for us to integrate with that new EMR as well. We partner with them quite closely. We have very detailed documentation around the data that we need to ingest in our system. And we're happy to coordinate calls with that EMR team too, to make sure that they understand what data they need to export from their system to send to us on a nightly basis. The second bullet is, I was really kind of speaking to that with the point of being introduced to the EMR, but ingesting the data. So we need your patient demographics. We need their ID, their name, their date of birth, mailing address, email, phone number. We need that contact information, because as I spoke about earlier, right, we're automating a lot of communication that's going out to patients in a combination of emails and letters. So we need that information to make sure that we can communicate with them about their cryo bills, as well as options to dispose if they no longer want to continue on with storage. And then of course, all of the, the inventory details, what specimen type that they're storing, the count of specimens. So once we know that specimen count goes to 0 or a new specimen comes in, we flag that in our system and we either close or bill appropriately. The third bullet is billing details. So how have you guys been billing your patients historically? what do we need to tailor moving forward? And that's where my team comes in. We make some strategic recommendations, right? We evaluate the pricing, the cadence to help advise on what we think is going to drive the best outcomes for your clinics. But we'll spend some time really digging into how you've historically communicated with your patients so we can replicate that experience as best as possible, or, identify some tweaks that we'll need to make. Both the data ingestion piece and how we're configuring the billing and payment plans within our system, those are topics on a weekly call, right? So we'll dedicate a weekly call to data review and how we're configuring payment plans within our system. So those are more what we consider billing and technical discoveries that our team walks clinics through. And then finally, there's just a list of assets and documents that we will ask the clinic to provide to us. So we give you a questionnaire and we'll ask you to complete that questionnaire that allows us to learn a little bit more about you guys, how you've been operating historically. We'll ask that you provide us with the logo and disposition forms for the portal. So we're customizing the portal to your liking. And, John had given some visuals previously of what that disposition process looks like within our portal. We can configure that, right? So there's a few different options on how we're tailoring that patient experience to obtain those disposition forms. So that's something that we'll review with the team. We do ask for what we call an EFT form, which is typically very important to clinics because that's how we're getting the funds into your bank account each month. And then we will review all of those email and letter templates that are sent out to patients. Because we can customize those to your liking. So we can change any verbiage you'll like. So we'll spend some time looking at those documents to make sure that they're to your liking. So that's it as far as requirements gathering. Again, we spend time talking about all of these, walking through what, everything that we need from you guys, just to make sure that it's very clear to the teams that we're working with on what we need to get started. So as far as getting started, I like to showcase just a high level timeline. So you have an idea of, all right, once we decide we want to partner with you, what's next? What's it going to look like? Hopefully the last several slides that I've walked through give you somewhat of an idea, but as far as equating that to a timeline, here's what that looks like. So we'll spend the first 3 to 4 weeks doing some operational and technical discovery, right? Talking about reviewing the data from the EMR, talking about your billing and payment plans and how you want to configure those. Once we have all of those assets and we've gathered all of those requirements that I talked about on the previous slide, we will then start configuring the portal. So that's something my team owns on the back end. We'll start configuring that portal. We'll work with the EMR to get, or your clinic directly to get that data ingested into our system, which takes about 4 weeks. After all of that is complete, then we move into QA, which again, we'll ask for some partnership with the clinic on. We'll QA, we'll look at some of the data in our environment, and then we'll do some training. We hold the training until the end, just because we don't want to do some training early on and then it gets lost in the mind of stakeholders that'll be working in our platform. So we save that to the last couple of weeks, and then we align on a date that we want to push the platform live and start, sending out communication to patients. So generally speaking, we say expect about a 12-week timeline, not to say that could go faster, or in some cases might take longer. Of course, we want to always aim to get you up and running within that 12 weeks or sooner, but understand that, there might be some different circumstances that we need to consider or align to. So that's it for timeline. Just a few bullets here that I thought would be interesting to share on this webinar. There are kind of questions we get asked fairly frequently. Hey, Laura, what's going to happen after you push the go live button? Like, what should I expect? So we just like to set some expectations there. There's going to be an increased volume in disposition forms collected, which is typically a great thing, right? But we just want to forewarn the lab, like, hey, you might see some more volume here and some more forms to review, because in some cases, right, we're sending out a lot of communication to patients all at once. And many of them might decide, oh my, you know what, I forgot that I had this specimen in storage, which I know sounds kind of crazy to say, but that happens, life happens. And they get that reminder and they decide, you know what, I'm done, with my family building journey. So they make the decision that they want to complete that form. So you might see an increase in those forms collected. There will also be an increase in patient call volume. It's usually higher just for the first month. Again, we have a customer support team that helps take on a brunt of those phone calls, but it's inevitable that patients are also going to call the clinic. They have a relationship with you. They know you. They might be asking specific questions around, the grading of their embryos. And our team is not going to advise from a clinical standpoint on, the grading of embryos. We don't get that information. We rather just get specimen count information so we know what to bill to. So in some cases, they'll just reach out directly to you because they have that relationship with you, or, maybe there's some questions that our team can't answer. So it'd be escalated to you guys. So we just like to forewarn customers. Not that this is a bad thing. It's a good thing, right? It means the system's working, we're communicating, we're engaging with patients, but typically within that first month, there's just a higher call volume. So we want to make sure that you all are staffed appropriately, but that completely evens out after about the first 4 to 6 weeks. We do also hold weekly office hours with our customers for the first 2 to 4 weeks after go live, just to make sure that we're helping answer any questions that they have about specific use cases that have been presented to their team, or a patient inquiry that came up. So point being, we're here to support after post go live. It's not that we just hit the launch button and then we leave and you guys are, on your own to figure it out. Our team is here to support. Additionally, about 3 months past go live, we coordinate what we call a post-launch review. And at that point, we want to look at some key metrics, right? What are we seeing from a volume standpoint, and how does that align to the key objectives that we talked about at the start of this process? And maybe we identify some recommendations or tweaks that we can make to some of our communication and billing efforts within our platform to ensure that we're, meeting some KPIs that we aligned on at the start of the relationship. So those are just a few things to kind of expect after post go live. Again, we're here to support. We like to look at ourselves as partners with our clinics. So, again, not to say that if we need to talk more than once a week, we can't. We absolutely can. But this is just kind of our standard and what we see after post go live. So that concludes for the onboarding process. I think we're probably going to move into some Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer any questions around working with my team and what it takes to get implemented in general.
Thank you very much, Laura and John. We certainly are going to move into some Q&A. So we've had some questions come into the Q&A box, and we had some questions in advance as well. Thank you very much for those. So please do keep those questions coming in. We will kick off with some of the ones that we got in advance, and a kind of general one, I think, to get us going. Why Embryo Options? How is Embryo Options different to what we currently have? John, you did touch on this, but perhaps you can cover this one.
I think the number one thing that I'm sorry.
Well, John, we're losing you. Maybe switch your camera off and then we might be able to hear you better. It sounds like a loss of signal.
Okay, is that better?
That's better, yeah.
So the number one thing that we hear, or a very common theme, is, well, we already have a patient portal, we already do billing, why would we need to do this? Well, we haven't seen automation happen. And in general, if you think about your lab and your digital environment, automation is the future, and it is something that we need. And the very first place that you should put in automation is in your ongoing efforts with patients, the ones that you're not seeing every day, the ones that are in storage, the ones that maybe have years worth of storage with you. Automation and communicating with them and doing a better job having proper timelines. Everything happens within a specific timeline. That's what automation does for you. So you don't have to do anything. You set it up and you let a system run. So working with us, we are the best at doing that, and we are a platform that really allows an automated patient engagement for you. So that's number one. EMRs typically don't do that, and it takes quite a bit of a build. I mean, we've been around for quite some time, and we're constantly updating and changing. So that would be number one, is to gain that digital patient experience that leverages automation and does all the work for you. Number two, we are 24/7 on demand for your patients. So if they need to reconsent, if they need end of storage consents, if they need to download their invoice, if they need to do anything, they can have access to a level of transparency for their ongoing storage that is completely different than what most EMRs, if not all EMRs, can go out to provide. So that 24/7 access is something that you gain beyond just the automation. And then finally, we do an exceptional job at giving you transparency. You can see your billing. You can see every email that's been sent to the patient. You can see if they're opening it. You can see if their addresses are correct. You can see if their phone numbers are correct. You can see if they've been contacting, if they've been into the portal. All of those items that when patients contact and that you want to support them with their journey and with what they're doing within it, it does it for you. I would say that leveraging all of that within a digital environment and something that is as quiet as we are, because you can basically establish it, go through the onboarding, go live, and then it does the work in the back end, and it takes a very small team from your end to maintain, and you have a team from Embryo Options to maintain it with you for as easy as it actually starts to happen. Once you're live, it does everything that you need your EMR systems that they just don't do today.
Great. That's super comprehensive. Thank you, John. Laura, you might be able to take this one. How do patients create an account?
Oh, that's a great question. So accounts are created from the EMR feed or updates that we're getting from a clinic if they're on spreadsheet. So an account will be created as soon as we recognize a new freeze date, and that account will be activated. And at that time of activation, a patient gets communication from us, giving them instruction on how to log into their patient portal and register so they can pay their bill or generate, a disposition form if they decide that they no longer want to dispose. One nice thing about all of the communication that comes from Embryo Options is that there is a temporary username and password on every single invoice or piece of communication that they get from us. So if they fail to see that original, account activation email and don't take action, there's always an option or instruction for them to get into the portal to take action. So there's not necessarily something that a patient needs to do to create an account. An account will be created from the data feed, but rather they will need to take action to log in and register. But again, there's instruction on every single piece of communication from EO on how to do that.
Great. So it sounds like we're just making it as sort of straightforward as possible for the patient.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's good. I'm loving this question, actually. Somebody's really thinking this through for their situation. Is there a threshold percentage of cycles that need to be fee paying to make Embryo Options a viable option? And that's someone saying they're coming from a unit, a clinic in the UK, which is primarily NHS funded, so primarily our government funding.
I'll go ahead and take this one. The simple answer is no, because our fees are performance based. We have very, very minimal monthly amount that it is for data hosting platform licensing. Outside of that, if patients don't pay, we don't take any fee. There's no fee associated with that. And so there really isn't like a threshold of paying patients. What we encourage you to do is to reach out to us and let us go ahead and really identify your unique situation to fully understand what the fees look like and where that comes in from. But no, we typically would not see that there's a threshold. If only 10% of patients pay, we only get paid when you get paid. So it's performance based.
That's fabulous. So just to reassure the author of the question, then, I mean, they could be a pretty small unit, and it could be a pretty small percentage of those patients, and it's still fine. It's still fine to use the system.
Correct. Absolutely. Yep. I mean, unless every single patient is getting free storage, then that's something that we would need to talk with you about. But even then, we don't make any money off of that because you're not getting paid. We're definitely performance-based pricing. So, yep.
Lovely. Thank you. So following on from that, then, another question. How would Embryo Options manage payments where the costs are covered for a period of time by the NHS? So they may get their storage fees covered for, say, 1, 2, or 3 years, and then the patient would need to pay beyond that.
I can take that. Super common scenario, and that's something that we dig into in that billing discovery call that I had spoken about. So we want to understand what the common scenarios are for insurance, or what we consider like a free period. And we build that into how we configure the payment plan. So if we know, okay, this patient has a freeze date of January 1, 2023, and they have storage free until for the first 2 years, we'll build the payment plan that way, and it'll know to bill them for the first time January 1st of 2025. So that's all something that we dig into in the billing discovery with the clinic to understand different insurance policies or coverage that their patients have, and understand what plans we would need to activate them on. And it's all kind of built on the back end.
Okay. And if there were different plans for different patients, then Embryo Options could deal with that. So it's,
yeah, we would find the common, like typically there's common themes, right? Like, okay, we have insurance plans that cover, 1, 2, or 3 years, but what will be important is to know from the clinic what patients are on each plan. And that's like an example of a use case that we would talk through with a clinic admin that's going to be working in the portal, so they know how to activate the right patients on the right plan.
good, super. Some questions now here around IT. So first up, will people working in the clinic need to do the software updates themselves?
No. So that is something that our team handles. So, John was talking about new platform features and functionality. My team communicates that with key stakeholders at clinics. We do also share that in newsletters. What is up to the only thing that the clinics would need to do is let us know if they want to enable that feature. And then, we would train them on how to use it if it did require them to execute on something. But a lot of our software updates or functionality are things that we can turn on that are automated on the back end. So no, there's no lift from the clinic on software updates. That's something we handle.
Brilliant. I think that's good news.
Yeah.
Question here around communication with patients. Actually, this is an interesting one. What about patients whose English is not very good, or their IT skills are not very good? How can we work with those patients?
I can take it. And John, if you want to add anything to it, please feel free. So our customer support team that I had talked about, we have customer support teams that are local in those different markets. They help with any IT support within the system. So that's another piece. I talked about if a patient has a question around, a bill that they're having a hard time interpret, and they want to, maybe make a payment directly on the phone, our team would handle that. Additionally, if they have confusion or issue getting into the system, logging in, our team supports that. So they would handle all of those inquiries. As far as translation or not speaking English quite well, because our customer service team will be based in that local market, we'd always have somebody that would handle and support that native language. As far as communication that goes out from the platform, right now, all of the clinics that are supported, as John had mentioned, right, we have customers in Canada, the US, Australia. Those are all predominantly English-speaking countries. So the default is to have all of our communication and invoicing go out in English, but there is plans to translate or support multiple languages within our platform.
And then I can add from my own experience, the clinic that I was at before had significant international for a specific one of the centers. So it was a network of clinics, and within the Embryo Options communication, we just linked a URL that landed to our own clinical website, and then we had self-selection languages within the website that actually dictated the way that we needed them to know specific to their accounts or whatever that they needed to do. So we built that on ourselves within our own, but there are always options that you can direct patients within that communication to however that you need them to do as well.
Brilliant, great, thank you. I think that's quite reassuring on that one. What else have we got? Just a quick one. How many clinics use Embryo Options? We've got somebody asking.
Yep. Right now it's about 100 clinics across all those 3 different countries that we spoke about.
Okay, so we've got a sizable existing customer base already.
Yeah.
Good. Question here, I think people are clearly thinking through what it's going to be like once it's implemented, which is great. So who in terms of roles in the clinic are involved in the Embryo Option implementation? So who's involved when you're implementing it, and who do you liaise with once it's live?
Great question. The more the merrier, but I understand people are very busy doing very important things like helping people grow their families. So that said, typically it is a billing team that we'll work with and the lab team. And we try to be because we are cognizant of time being precious for folks in the clinic. We try to be very transparent around what we're going to cover in each call. So the calls where we're talking about the patient experience around disposition, we'll encourage the lab team to come to that. And their role within the Embryo Options environment is to help aid to the discussion on how we want to configure that within our platform, as well as after we're live, we will have, as John had mentioned, we have the option to integrate with DocuSign. So if you want to turn on that feature, patients can access those forms via the platform and then start that process via DocuSign, sign everything electronically. And those copies of those completed forms will go to a lab contact for review, right? They want to review the accuracy of those forms before they move forward with a discard. So in that case, we would want to designate a lab email alias or a particular lab contact or multiple contacts that should receive the copies of those forms. And once those forms have been reviewed and have deemed to be accurate and correct by the lab, they would log into EO and close that account for billing. So that's, again, like a use case that we would train the team on. And then as far as the billing team, we typically train them around how to look up patient accounts, and if they needed to edit or change anything about a patient account or discount a balance for whatever reason, we would want to make sure that they felt comfortable for that. So a common reason would be this. Maybe a patient received a bill for their annual storage fee on, I always like to go through examples to make it crystal clear, on May 1. And on May 15th, they decided, you know what, they've made the decision, I don't want to continue on with storage, I'm going to discard. They complete those necessary forms, but they still have this $700 balance. They're going to call the clinic and say, hey, I just completed this discard, like, can you waive this balance? And most of the times clinics say yes, especially if it was within a very recent time that charge was posted. That's something that we would escalate to the clinic to handle. We never want to make decisions around how to, handle your financials or discount balances. So that's something we like to make sure that the billing or finance team is comfortable executing on, and how a common use case on how they're participate or execute within our platform.
Super, thank you very much. So a kind of follow-up question from that one is, practically, what's left for the clinic to do with regards to patient billing once Embryo Options is live and everything's settled down? We've come out the other side of the implementation.
Yeah, it's a great question. We've done so much to automate our system in the past couple of years that it's really not much, right? All of the invoices, the letters, the emails, that's all automated. The feed coming in from the EMR is automated. So the activation of these accounts, new accounts, accounts as soon as they go to zero inventory, we know to close them. So it's really more of a reactive state, so to speak, right? There's nothing that they need to, like come in and say, okay, the first of every month, we need to generate these bills. That's all just happening. So it's more just supporting patient inquiries as they come in, because all of those accounts are being activated on the back end. So it's just really supporting those questions around, I may have an outstanding balance, or they want to be put on a payment plan. Again, our team handles a lot of those inquiries as well, but that's a common, a common question that comes up, or how they'll need to continue to support. But as far as communicating around billing, that's all automated in our system. Again, I gave an example of what the lab would need to do and inquiries around disposition, but one other thing is reporting, right? John showed all of the reports. That's something more that's proactive that the teams do. They'll log into EO and they'll look at analysis on, financial summaries and what's going to be sent to them. They'll do some projections. They might look at aging detail reports. So it's more from a reporting standpoint, truly.
Great, super. So not too much then, really, which is
No.
what I'm sure people want to hear. And then last question, this is a really good question. Some clinical group funding in the UK, clinical commissioning group funding even in the UK, is dependent on clinical outcome. Does Embryo Options ingest clinical outcome to alter payment plan automatically? Great question.
We don't ingest clinical data, but this is exactly the type of question that comes to us that we excel at. This is where you have a team for it. So you have a need that says, hey, we have this piece of data in our EMR, or we have a piece of data that then changes our billing plan. Today, we don't ingest that. So there's ways to do it. So you would have to pull it and know, or you'd have to work with us. But in the future, this is where we'd want to talk with you. Okay, what is it the need? How do we scope that? Is it possible to come out of your EMR? Where do you get that data from? And then we would then put that on what we call our product roadmap to say, hey, this is one of those features, or this is an item that we need to have. If it's something that is ubiquitous for everybody, meaning all clinics are going to be able to need this, it's something that we would go ahead and let you know when we could slot that in, or what the development time would be for something like that. But we are very cognizant that we're not looking to get your embryology information. We're not replicating your EMR inside of our system. We're not looking at pregnancy rates. We're not really seeing that level of detail, but a flag or a way to be able to assist you with that need is something that we would need to work with you on, which is why we're here. That's kind of one of the benefits of working with us, is that you can bring those type of issues to us and kind of scope out what is a better way with a digital solution to improve.
Great. No, that's really flexible and helpful, I think, approach for our clinics. Super. Well, that brings us to the end of the questions, and thank you very much, everyone, for all of the questions.